This is Lacey Rice with KySports.TV at Georgetown College, talking to women's soccer coach Leah Cruz Castleman, who is in her 10th year at Georgetown.
Sounds like a long time.
Coach Castleman is a former player at Georgetown College, and she returned to her alma mater to lead the team that she once played for. And she has been successful over the years with the overall record of 98 wins, 62 losses, and a few ties here and there.
A few too many ties.
How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Well, it's a pleasure coming up here to Georgetown College, meeting you, and giving you an opportunity to share with the rest of Kentucky and hopefully the United States, maybe even the world, about Georgetown College women's soccer. How has everything been so far this year?
This year is a really special year for us. I've got 7 seniors on the team this year who are starting, and the other 4 players, well, there's 3 out of the other 4 who are juniors. So we're a very veteran group this year. The leadership is outstanding. Everybody just kind of knows what to do and where to be and what questions not to ask and those types of things. And it makes my job so easy. I can just kind of sit back and watch the magic happen. And we're looking forward to a really great season this year.
Okay. Well, it seems that you've pretty much been in the mix every year. Of course, you have a juggernaut in Lizzie Wilson, who sits top of the conference on an annual basis, and then you, Campbellsville, and quite a few others seem to slug it out. And looking at your conference record last year, you actually only had 1 loss.
Yeah, so it was Lindsey Wilson. I think we tied Cumberland, Tennessee last year. At that point, they were ranked a little bit higher than us nationally, so that was a big game for us. We actually should have won it. I know every coach probably says that about a tie, but we were up until the very last few seconds and made a mistake that cost us. But we're looking to really build off the things that we did last year, and then in 2015 when we got our first national ranking. We've kind of bounced around in the top 25, in and out of it, the past 2 seasons. So we're trying to just kind of build off that and really have our sights set on our first national tournament appearance this year. So big, exciting things happening.
Okay. With the NAIA, how does a team get invited, or how do they make the national tournament?
You can win your conference outright. You can win first in the conference tournament. If your conference has a certain number of members, I believe it's 12, you will take your first team, your champion, and you'll take your runner-up to the national tournament. At that point, there's maybe 4 spots left for an at-large bid, and they go off of a ranking system to choose those spots. Last year, we were about 3 or 4 spots away from that last at-large bid, so we were very, very, very close to getting in last year. And the year prior to that, I think we were 5 or 6 spots away from it.
So you've had some close calls.
Yeah,
there.
some heartbreakers.
Yeah.
But I keep telling them, y'all, let's just win the conference. It doesn't have to be this way.
Well, that would be the easier thing to do.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it. We'll do it for sure. I believed it when I was a player. My last season playing was 2004, and we came really close that year. And I've believed it ever since, and it'll happen.
Okay. Talking about your time as a player, who was your coach at the time, and what were some of your honors?
Jim Tussey was my coach. Great. He's a legend in Kentucky. Been coaching for a really long time. He started the women's program here. And he took it from a club sport to almost, a national contender. My senior year, I'm trying to remember exactly. I think we had votes for the top 25 for the first time in the history of the program my senior year, and then we had votes again. So just outside the top 25 for the preseason ranking in 2005 after I graduated. I was a goalkeeper. I played in goal for four years here. I was an All-American honorable mention, and it was 4 of the best years of my life. So much that I wanted to come back, and this is all I really want to do.
Okay, all right. How many All-Americans have you had during your time coaching?
Coaching, I have not coached any.
Okay.
I've played with a few. There were Liz Brown when she played. She's McHale now. She was an honorable mention. Brittany Hunt was an honorable mention, and Megan Scott was a third-team All-American.
Okay.
No, I played with all 3 of them.
Okay, okay. Now, your style of play, what type of style do you have? Is it more attacking, more defensive?
Oh man, that's a hard one. It's interesting because you see a lot of goalkeepers go on to coach. Okay, I see a lot of that. So you'd think that we would be maybe more defensive minded because that was kind of our role was as a the final defender. But I actually really enjoy coaching both sides of the ball. But I also really understand the attack side because I watched it so closely when I was playing. And that side of the ball kind of interests me, especially with the group I'm coaching right now because they're very attack oriented. But it interests me because that was always what I was trying to break down as a player, as the attack coming at me. So I don't know. I've had teams that have been more defensive-minded. I've had teams that have been more attack-minded. I think this year's team is probably the most attack-minded team that I've coached in 10 seasons. I've had some seasons where we didn't score more than 20 goals in the whole season. But in the same season, we may have had 10 shutouts. We may have only allowed 9 goals the whole season.
Right.
The girls, this year's team set a record to have 45 goals this season, and I 100% think that they can achieve that.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see.
And for those who are not familiar with soccer, soccer's not like football or basketball where you just have a whole lot of points scored and everything. It's a lot of strategy and a lot of pretty much perseverance and endurance by the players.
Yes.
And so, well, just to put it in perspective, on average, what would you say would be like the percentage made versus shot on goal?
Man, that's a tough one. I had a freshman last year take 31 shots. I was just looking at this earlier. I don't have this memorized. Okay. She took 31 shots and 20 of them were on frame. Okay, our leading scorer last year was about 50%. Okay, just to kind of put, and that's kind of probably what they shoot for, from the 50% to 75% range. Shots on goal. I would say a good striker is probably scoring 1 out of every 5 shots. But and even for like a goalkeeper, having 5 saves in a game is a great game.
Right.
So I know, I guess a lot of people think soccer's boring because of that, but I don't know. You just got to get out there and play, and you'll. So I've had friends that have fallen in love with it later in life, so it's kind of cool to see.
Okay. Well, soccer is also, besides just the endurance aspect, it's very physically demanding because, I never knew before I actually sat and watched some matches live just how many bumps and hits and everything else that players take during the course of a match.
Yeah, we do a lot of weightlifting, and that's something that I've seen evolve over the years from even when I was a player and the years that I've coached. We do it a lot more now than we used to, but I think everybody is kind of moving in that direction. So if you don't do it, you're going to get left behind. It is just, the physicality is just, it's outrageous. Wish you guys could have seen this scrimmage we played last Saturday. There was almost an ejection, and it was just physical play, They'll let you get away with some of it, but not a lot, and so you got to kind of know how to do it, and you have to be stronger than your opponent, and we're seeing that a lot more now than we used to. Okay. So a lot of time in the squat rack for my girls.
Okay. So as far as the Mid-South Conference, what style of play have and not trying to get you in hot water with any referees or anything, but do they pretty much let you play, or are they ones that will at times slow down the flow of the match? Or
You know, it depends on the referee. There are certain guys that will let us play. And I'll be sure to tell them before the game, we don't ever foul, we're not ever offside, so just don't worry about, leave your whistle over here with me. It depends on the ref. I typically, as a coach, I prefer a game where the ref is he kind of goes unnoticed, where we're allowed to just kind of play. And I think my girls would agree with me, it really disrupts the flow of the game when you're getting a whistle every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds, for a little bump here or bump there. It's a physical game. It's a very, very physical game, and I think there's probably stats about that somewhere. You may know. The number of concussions and things in women's soccer is probably now considered maybe one of the more physical of women's sports. I don't know if it's really past basketball or anything, but it's up there. But when the ref will let us play and not disrupt the flow with every little touch, that's the kind of ref I prefer. And we have some really great ones in the Mid-South, so I always appreciate when we get those guys.
Well, talking about concussions, I believe overall as a sport, soccer is, I believe, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's very physical. Plus, the fact that you can strike with your head and things like that. With me wearing glasses, that wouldn't be too smart. But
yeah, I will say some of the concussions we encounter are because of the head balls. But one thing the Mid-South Conference has done that I've really appreciated is they've put a rule in place where we will actually deflate the balls a little bit between men's and women's games. We go down to 9-pound ball, which helps. I mean, when the balls are inflated to just this rock hard thing, we don't have the neck strength in the women's game to deal with that, and so you're seeing a lot of concussions from the head balls, and then you see some where you're knocking heads, and then the third that you'll see is the whiplash and the hitting the ground, hitting the head on the ground. But deflating the balls a little bit has helped a lot, and it's something that I appreciate our conference doing for the girls. So.
Now, overall, the Mid-South Conference, as a conference, has it been one of those that have sent 2 to 3 teams to the national, or is it primarily Lindsay representing?
We sent 3 teams in 2015, and we sent 2 in 2016. I think 2015 was the first time the Mid-South had sent 3. Now, I would say for the size of our conference, we're probably the top, one of the top. One of the Southern conferences typically sends 3. It's the conference with Mobile, Alabama. I think Martin Methodist maybe in there, William Carey in Mississippi, I believe. They typically send 3, but that's probably your strongest conference. So for sending 3 in 2015 was huge for us. Should be 3 again this year.
Okay. Well, looking at your roster, it seemed like your roster is primarily Kentucky.
Yes, it is. I think I got 1 Ohio, 1 Florida, 1 California, and a bunch of Kentucky girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you seen the level of play across the state just rise?
And since I've been coaching, yeah. It's funny. I typically recruit out of Louisville in the greater Cincinnati area, so northern Kentucky. And there's very quality soccer in both of those 2 areas. Always has been. So I don't know how much it's really risen in some of the rural areas. I don't get as many girls from the rural areas. Louisville, Cincinnati, Lexington are my primary recruiting areas where soccer's always been powerhouse. So it's hard to say. But I've had some girls come into camps and things from all over the state of Kentucky, and it's fun to see the level, across the state and how it's coming along.
Okay. Well, now, if a young lady wants to come from, let's say, a smaller county from out of Kentucky, or even like Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Southern Kentucky, What would you prefer them to do? Just contact you directly, send tape?
I prefer text message or a phone call. I'm kind of old-fashioned when it comes to that. I like to get kids on campus, and I like to get them in a training session with us, which is one of the advantages of being an NAIA program. Is a lot of our recruiting rules are pretty lax when it comes to that. But I like to take a kid and put them in a training session and kind of see how they play with my current players, and if they can play at the level. And I really like to try to get to know a kid in the recruiting process and what kind of a person they are, what kind of character they have, and meet mom and dad, and and I really like to do that by getting them on campus. And typically the best and fastest means of communication is through a text message or a phone call, and we figure out a day to get them here, and we go through the process that way. And if everything meshes, we try to get them back a couple more times. But I have a freshman from down in speaking of Eastern Kentucky. She's down in Middlesboro, was where she's.
Okay.
Little tiny itty bitty place. You go through the smallest little towns to get down there. She's like right on the border of Kentucky. So I have had kids from all over the place, little tiny places that have played and done well. And she actually, she's one of my freshman goalkeepers. But she went down to Knoxville to play for a big club, and that's kind of how she got, really developed as a player, is getting down into Knoxville and playing at a high level. So.
Okay. Now, as far as talking recruiting, NAIA and NCAA do have very, very different rules. I know one rule is that you don't have that limitation of having to wait till after their junior year to recruit them.
Correct.
And so if a young lady's in 9th grade,
right, 2nd grade,
and might want to come to Georgetown, Kentucky, it's okay for her to go ahead and contact you.
Yes, absolutely, and I want to hear from them. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear from mom and dad. I want to hear from that kid, and I want to get to know that kid. One of my top recruits for 2018 started coming to my camps as a freshman, going into her freshman year of high school, and she's come repeatedly over the years, and now it looks like she's going to be a Tiger next year. Hopefully, I'm waiting to hear back from her. But it's a relationship building process, and I think that needs to occur. I think that we have really strong team chemistry on our team, and I think part of the recruiting process has kind of lends itself to that.
Okay. Well, and I talk to high school coaches a lot about recruiting and things, and I do cover NAIA as well. When do you advise student athletes to get or to submit to the eligibility center for NAIA?
Well, because of the fee, I recommend that they wait until they know they're going to play at an NAIA school. And I'm making a lot of scholarship offers in the fall of senior year, and typically, and now it's starting to get even a little bit earlier than that. Typically, by Christmas of your senior year, you ought to know where you're going to go and what you're going to do, and there's still plenty of time then to go through the eligibility center.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to keep my money, so I don't want to go, doing all these, paying all these fees and registering for all these when you have time to do it, after you decide. So.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about some of the players that we should look for this year?
Yes, there's 7 seniors, like I said, so all of them. In our attack, you've got Bethany Massey and Sky Zimmer are 2 juniors who are running our attack this year. They work really well with Lindsay Dunn, a senior who's going to be out on the flank for us, and Jody DeJohn and Elise McKinney, seniors also, that will be running up through the midfield. And those 6 are so dynamic and so creative. It's just exciting soccer to watch. I've got a bunch of veterans in the back line too. I've got Zoe Stovic, who's an all-region player, and multiple all-conference first team. She's at center back. I've got 2 seniors next to her, Emily Wright and Emma Schneider. And then I've got a junior at my outside back, Fatima Maxwell, Louisville girl. I've got a senior at my holding center. I mean, I feel like so like rich with all these seniors. Emily Connor is a holding center midfielder, wins everything out of the air. So I've probably named my entire starting lineup. I'm gonna have a freshman in goal this year. I'll have a freshman goalkeeper. I'm not sure who's gonna get the job yet, but it's gonna be Meg Martin or Sarah Slusher. So and I've got a lot of depth as well. I've got juniors and sophomores coming off the bench that are skilled and creative, and they're fighting tooth and nail for that job every day in training. So I just can't wait to play. We got a game tomorrow, and I'm so excited to get on that bus.
Okay. How many girls do you have overall?
I've got 24 this season on the varsity.
Okay. All right. Now, as far as last year, how did things end up for you?
We ended up. Jenny, help me. Were we in the conference finals? Semifinals. Conference semifinals against a team, Cumberland, Tennessee, who we had tied earlier in the year, and we lost. And then we were close to getting an at-large bid to nationals. I think we were about 3 spots out. Okay. So it was a bit of a heartbreaker at the end of the year.
Okay, so the girls have something to shoot for this year, and they know what it feels like to be there, but not to get there.
Yeah, they're fired up. They're ready to go.
Okay. Well, Coach, as we get ready to wrap it up, just want to give you an opportunity to give some shout-outs.
Oh, man. I could go all night. Well, I got my daughter in the room with me. She's a budding soccer player. She's 7 years old and started maybe following in Mama's footsteps, playing a little goalkeeper. So shout out to the whole family. My husband's a big supporter of the program, and my son is turning 4 on Sunday. So they back me, and they let me work hard from August to November, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, we definitely want to thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us, and we will definitely keep an eye out on Georgetown women's soccer this year.
All right.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right.